Hi everyone, my name is Yakir, and today I want to talk about a really exciting instrument. Ready? Give me a drum roll. The electric bass. Electric because it's connected to an amplifier on its own. Very hard to hear the instrument because it's not an acoustic instrument like a piano or a drum, right? So you have to connect it to an amplifier, to something that will kind of project the sound and capture, these electronics capture the sound, and then they move it into an amp and then we can hear it. So if I turn the volume up now, we can hear it. And the electric bass is super cool. Let's start, before we talk about how it sounds and what its role in an orchestra or in a band is, let's talk about the different parts of this instrument. So we have the body over here, and this kind of is where the true sense that the sound of the instrument is created by the vibrating strings resonating from the wood. So it needs to be quality wood, good quality wood. These two are the pickups. They're picking up the sound of the vibrating strings, processing it through the electronics and moving it into the amplifier so we can hear it. So we have the body and the two pickups, very important. And this part is called the neck. It needs to be smooth, so it could be easily, you can move your hand all around the neck very freely. I like this neck because it's thin, so you can kind of really easily, it's very playable. And you can see as there's a grid on the neck, and those are called frets, right? And there's also markings in specific locations to kind of help guide you so that you know what note you're playing and where to place your hand. Over here is the headstock, and it has these tuners, which whenever the bass is not in tune, you can turn. You don't have to call a piano tuner. Well, it's not a piano, though. And then you could just turn them to the right direction in order to make sure that the instrument is tuned. Because when you play a bass that's out of tune, but when you fix the tuning right, it sounds crisp and clean and it complements everything else that's in it. So we have the body, we have the pickups, we have the neck and the frets, headstock, and the tuners. Now, when all these parts work together and they're all in tip-top shape, you turn the volume on and you got yourself an electric bass. Now, the role of the electric bass is very unique because it takes care of the bottom end, the low sounds. It needs to play melodies, right? But it also needs to be very rhythmic because the bass and the drums, they gotta be best friends. When the bass player and the drummer, they don't get along, the music is not really happening. It's kind of like the foundation of everything. So a bass player has two roles, has to take care of the bottom melody or the basic structure of the chords or whatever the composer wrote for that bass, but it also has a role, rhythmic role. And it's kind of like the glue between the percussion instruments or drum set to the rest of the melodic instrument or rhythmic instruments that exist in an orchestra or in a band. Essentially, it's kind of like the glue of the whole thing. And when a bass player is really like grooving, oh, it's so satisfying. I want to play you a bass line so you can get a sense of what a bass line sounds like. And let's see if you can even recognize where that bass line's from, what song. Here we go. Make sure the volume's up. Electronics, headstock, neck, tuners, pickups work together. Okay, here we go. Did you recognize the song? That was September by Earth, Wind and Fire. And then you notice that they had a melody, right? But also had this part of almost like a drum set that was playing with it. So the bass lines, the greatest bass lines, they do both. They have great melody, but they're also very rhythmic. And that combination is essential to this instrument. And it can be whether the instrument is supporting the band and it has a supporting role, meaning like it just plays something that is not the melody, or it's leading some melodic part. For instance, the bass is really cool because it can also do this. Listen to this thing. Almost guitar-like, right? It can play beautiful chords, and it can play beautiful melodies, can play slow, right? And now the complete opposite of this is if we change the way we're playing, and instead of like in September, I was playing with my fingers, which was finger style. Now, if I take my hand, turn it this way, and switch into slap bass mode, you're going to get a very different texture of sound, or very different quality of the sound. It'll be more rhythmic. Listen to this. So now I'm like hitting the string with my thumb and plucking it on the bottom strings. I pluck them in the top strings. I hit them with a thumb. Here's a little bass line using slap technique. Here we go. Check this out. So now you get a real rhythmic sense, almost like a drum set, right? Now let's talk about the different effects, unique sounds that the bass can make. You could slide to a note, or you can slide from a note down. And another thing is you can use enharmonics. Enharmonics are basically foundational aspect of a sound, but you can isolate them by just slightly tapping your finger and not pressing it all the way. Spooky music. Let's see if we can mix the overtones or enharmonics and then the slide at the same time. I'm going to try an experiment. That's pretty cool. So it creates a very different atmospheric sound. Another cool way to play the bass is by just plucking it with your thumb like this. And when you're resting your palm, the palm of the hand on the strings, you're muting them a little bit, so have a different texture. Here's another bass line that maybe you'll recognize. Let's see. See that it creates kind of a muted, subdued sound, but also has a really strong punch. I hope you enjoyed these explorations. We learned so much about the bass, about the different parts of the instrument, different ways you can make sound, its role in the orchestra or in a band. So next time you're listening to a song, make sure you tune your ears into the bass, into the low end, and check out what is the person that's playing it doing. Is the person playing fingerstyle? Is that slap bass? Is he using, do you think it's subdued sound, so he's maybe muting the strings with his thumb? Is the part very melodic or is it very rhythmic? So many things to kind of explore on one single layer of music, which is the bass. I'll see you next time.